Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Good morning, and welcome into Inside the Game. I'm Jonathan Turner alongside Ryan Glinsky, stepping in today for Mr. Nathan Wangler. We are live right now in our PMG studios here in Shelby Township, Michigan, and it's another edition of Inside the Game, episode number 126 here, Ryan. And first off, man, welcome back. I know you were here last week when I was at the beach.
Yeah, I was, and luckily that I will not be interrupted by another hotel guest and forces me into the woods to do this podcast. So I like this change of scenery a little bit better than the first one.
I can only imagine, and I didn't, in full disclosure, I did not watch that show at all. I was at the beach, and so my whole plan was to just completely separate myself and get away from everything. So I never watched the show, but I heard great things from Nathan Wangler, who obviously is our other host. Nathan is on assignment this morning. He is calling a Whitecaps game here at noon today, so he had an early call time, so he's not available to be here. But if it's your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button, like us, share this with your friends and family, as I always say. And we'll be back here again tomorrow morning and Friday as well, with a special edition coming up here on Saturday. As we'll be at the North American Soccer Expo on Saturday. We'll be doing some live environments from there as well. Not really sure how that's going to look yet. We're going to work on that here as that plan over the next couple of days. But yesterday we talked about Lionel Messi. We talked about him being suspended, from the MLS. And I'm curious your thoughts. First off, I said that it was a mess. I think that him being suspended by the MLS for not participating in the All-Star game was stupid. I also think the All-Star game is stupid. That's a whole other conversation. And if you want to watch that, go back and watch yesterday's episode. But I'm curious your take. As a fan of soccer, as someone who's been around soccer most of your life, a fan of international soccer, we talked about that. We were talking about before the show started, who you kind of root for. You mentioned Arsenal, right? And so thinking about that for a moment, they don't have an all-star game across the pond, all right? And these players, they deserve their breaks. Do you believe that Messi, one, should have been suspended? And two, do you think the MLS should just completely eliminate the all-star game altogether?
Well, one, it's Lionel Messi. He can really do whatever he wants at this stage in his career. And yes, they should eliminate the all-star game. I don't see a point in the all-star game. Even you look at the major leagues like the NFL, the NBA, MLB, or NHL even scrapped their all-star game in general. We have our own international competitions anyway, like the Euros, Gold Cup, World Cup, all that fun stuff. So we have that stuff already implemented. And the NHL did a great thing, I thought, with the Four Nations. I don't know if you got a chance to watch any of that. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. Scrap the All-Star weekend because the players need the rest. There's no incentive of truly playing these games. Sure, maybe they can win a little bit of prize money, but there's no other incentive to do that anymore. I know the MLB back in the day used to have the winner of the game, the AL, the NL, got home field advantage in the World Series, and that was something big, but they don't even do that anymore. The MLS should just scrap the All-Star game in general because, some of those players have play for their country, some don't even care for it, and then you have the big names of the sport, Messi, Busquets, Thomas Mueller just got transferred over to the Whitecaps yesterday, and all those big names, they don't care for the All-Star game. They're just there to continue to play soccer, play at a decently high level, and collect a paycheck.
Which leads me to my next question. Nathan and I talked about this yesterday. We talked about the MLS roster. And the biggest challenge facing the MLS to this moment is identity. You don't know who's playing in these damn games. You don't know the players. You know who Messi is. You know who Alba is and Suarez. You know these big names who've come across from other leagues on the downturn of their careers. But do you really know, these MLS players? Obviously, we're located here in Michigan. We don't have an MLS team. So if I lived in Columbus, the chances of me knowing the Columbus players is probably pretty strong. Okay, but if you are an average soccer fan, all right, if I compared average soccer fan to average baseball fan, everybody in America knows who the best baseball players are.
Yeah.
Okay, the best American baseball players and the best baseball players in total. We know that, right? We know who the best NBA basketball players are. We know who the best football player. Obviously, we all know who the best football players are. That's probably the easiest one to come up with. Mm-hmm. We all know who the best hockey players are. Who are the best MLS players. Like, who are they? And can the average person, if I went down the street right now and asked 10 people in Birmingham, Royal Oak, in large cities like LA, would they be able to identify, 2 or 3 players?
I don't think so. I always like this analogy was if LeBron James came to your house and delivered a pizza, you would know who he is. But if all-stars on the MLS team came and delivered you a pizza, would you know who they are? I mean, Messi. I mean, does people actually know who Messi are in America and Miami? I would hope so.
Well, I know when he first came here, he was at a grocery store and he got mobbed. I think that there are certain parts of the country where if you go down to the southern, Florida, Arizona, Texas, right along the southern border of the United States and Mexico, a tremendous amount of people love the game of soccer. Right? You get into, again, you think about here in Michigan where these pockets are, right? We've got pockets of Detroit, pockets of Pontiac, which is heavily Hispanic population, huge soccer fans. So they're going to know not only players who play in these leagues, they're obviously going to know Mexican players, Hispanic-based players, players from South America. It's a great conversation to have because when we talk specifically about where the MLS is compared to its counter leagues across the world, and identity is their biggest problem. And when you say, okay, well, how do we continue to grow this game? The reason why the Pro Bowl is no longer relevant is because players stop giving a shit, right? When then players stop giving a shit, well, naturally fans stop giving a shit. Okay, and so I keep saying this. What hockey did with this international tournament, right, instead of the All-Star game, was an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable. And it was highly successful. And I would imagine they're not going to change that. They're going to keep that thing going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep saying that the NFL, instead of the Pro Bowl, you still have these Pro Bowl kind of festivities. But what you do is you take the losers in the NFC and AFC championship games and have them play for a third place game that weekend. And now that becomes a relevant game. And then you have all the festivities associated with the Pro Bowl happening at that time. So the whole thing becomes this ultra competitive thing. The game's already happening, and the players are actually playing for something meaningful. You make it meaningful. They get, hey, you finish in third place. And yes, I know that's a soccer thing, but so what? I mean, hockey took an all-star game and turned it into a tournament.
Yeah.
Why not make football a third-place game? Why not do that? So that's my idea with the football. Hoping the NFL is paying attention to me on that because I think it's a really good idea. But when it comes to the MLS, we have this conversation a lot where we're like, well, we aren't competing with football. Like, we've got to stop thinking that we're competing with
They're
football.
not even in the same season.
We're not competing with baseball. We're not competing with any other sport but our own. Okay, there are enough people in this country who love soccer that want to be a part of it, and so we're not chiming in. And yes, you're going to take the maybe the quote unquote NFL football fan who's got nothing to do on a Saturday night in July, and they're going to come watch an LA Galaxy game. Okay, that's going to happen, right? We get that, but your base is not NFL football fans. Your base is not baseball fans. Your base is soccer fans.
Yeah.
And there's enough soccer fans around this country to go to games and want to watch enough soccer. The reality is, again, from a marketing standpoint, I don't think that the MLS does a great enough job to market the game of soccer in the way that they should. And then number two is we're trying to be like everybody else. Well, no. The MLS doesn't need to have an all-star game. Why is there an all-star game? And then more importantly, why would you penalize your stars because they don't want to play? They need a break. Of all the people, you were going to penalize your golden child. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. And more importantly, what does it do for the league? It makes everybody pissed off at the league for what they're doing.
Yeah, if anything, it generates a little bit of buzz, like, publicly. Other sport outlets are like, wow, Lionel Messi got suspended from the MLS. But I want to go back to the League of Nations thing where I'm not a hockey guy. I know, like, a couple of the Red Wings, and that's really about it, and Connor McDavid. But other than that, I was on the edge of my seat for that USA-Canada games. I really enjoyed the League of Nations. I thought it was a great buzz. But to your point, I think there's no point of having an MLS All-Star game. And I also kind of going back to your marketing point is when we're looking, like you're going around at Dick's Sporting Goods, the soccer players that you see on the ad campaigns are European soccer players playing in the Premier League. Like I see Bukayo Saka of Arsenal doing the New Balance commercials. I don't see anyone in the MLS doing them. Sure, you could throw Christian Pulisic on a couple of things, but again, Pulisic is playing at AC Milan right now. Pulisic has not played in the MLS once yet. He's been overseas. He was in the New York City FC Academy, I think, but he was never overseas. Like, you don't see any of those MLS players being marketed for soccer products. It's always the European, and I understand those are the bigger name guys. More people in the world see it, but from an MLS marketing standpoint, you should market in America your players, but they don't. Like, they just throw Messi on something, throw Messi on a lunchbox. It's really about it. I don't see really anything else. I mean, we've had a handful of players kind of progress. Alphonso Davies is a name where he started up in Vancouver, I believe, and then made his way to Bayern Munich. But other than that, they don't market their players well at all.
No, and I think you made a great point about like a player like Pulisic, and who we know, I would imagine for sure, on the downturn of his career, which will be in the next 5 years, will make his way back here.
Yeah,
and he'll play here because again, that's been the theme of the MLS. We're not getting players at their peak, and this is what's going to lead me into my next topic here today, and it's something that we're talking about here this morning, and it's an interesting conversation, and I'm going to put it as our question of the day. When you play FIFA, the video game, all right, when you play it, all right, what team do you play? Who's your team? Right now, we all have our favorite team, right, in the sense of who we root for. Now, if you're talking about domestically, okay, who would I root for? Well, the closest team to us domestically would be Columbus Crew. That's the closest. I mean, you could argue that maybe Columbus, Chicago are pretty close to each other. I don't know the exact distance, but I think Columbus is definitely closer mileage-wise.
I'm just saying I would not root for an Ohio team ever.
That's fair. I'm just saying that
that's
if you're
a Columbus
saying,
team too.
Yeah, I'm just
not
saying
at all.
again. I'm saying that if you're talking about just based on proximity alone,
yeah,
because again, if you think about this, for example, there's a lot of people who are in Toledo, who live in Toledo. They live in Ohio, but they root for the Lions because the Lions are the closest thing to them. And so while they live in Ohio, they're rooting for the Lions. That's a very common thing.
Kind of like the UP where people root for the Packers.
Yeah, which, again, I also don't understand that either. But we can, again, but proximity-wise, that's what it makes you think. So the question is, who are you going to pick and why? And I asked this question: if you're playing FIFA, what team are you picking?
Me, I would pick like just a straight up kickoff game,
I'm just saying, like, hey, if me and you were sitting down right now, what team would you pick?
Arsenal, because they're my favorite team.
Picking Arsenal. Okay. See, me, I would have picked Chelsea or FC Barcelona. Like, that's would have been my teams. Now, I haven't played FIFA in a minute. I'm super busy, as you can imagine. If I'm going to play a video game, it's going to probably end up being Fortnite. Don't judge me.
That's a good choice. That's a good Fortnite.
All right.
Or a good Fortnite game.
Yeah. So Chelsea or FC Barcelona, right? You're picking Arsenal, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how many fans out there, when they're going online and playing an online opponent, are picking LA Galaxy.
Probably not many, unless you live in LA or a super
or picking
MLS,
Columbus Crew
or a super MLS junkie.
I'm curious MLS team rankings in FIFA. All right, in FIFA video game. Right. Let's just see what they have as how they rank the teams. I'm sure if there's, I bet you there's probably a way to do this.
I also will say this though about the MLS in FIFA. I remember my friends and I, we'd play FIFA with a couple of MLS players, like, as fun. And for some reason in FIFA, I always thought that like the players were slower and just worse players, and that would get you more frustrated. And then when you go play as a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Man City, your like the quality of players are so much better. The game like is easier to play, but when you're playing as MLS players, the players just kind of suck in the video game. And that's not even any discredit to the actual players, but in the video game, they suck because they're so slow and you can't pass the ball.
I almost put out my coffee, but
that would have been horrible.
I mean, you hit it on that. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, like, legitimately, if you're watching or playing this game, if you're playing FIFA, you are not picking an MLS team, and if you are, you're doing it because you're playing against another MLS team. And to be fair, you're probably having fun with it.
I remember my friends and I, we would always try to get, we would play as the LA Galaxy. This is back when like Landon Donovan was on the team. Robbie Keane, I think, was on the team.
Yep.
Whatever that team was, is we would take that team, the two of us, three of us or whatever, and we would take that team and see if we could beat prime FC Barcelona. We would Messi, David Villa, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, all those guys. We'd fail a majority of the time, but we would play against the computer, but we would try and beat FC Barcelona with an MLS team because we thought that was like the craziest thing to do at the time.
And I will be the first one to tell you that I have I have tried doing something similar, and you get smoked.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. The game plays like it's slower, and I understand why they do that. It's no different than if you went into, again, you're talking about playing like international, right? When you have Team USA going up against Brazil, it's the same thing, right? It's a slower game from Team USA, and it's indicative of our current environment. And this is why, if you are a serious gamer, you are not picking Columbus Crew. You're not picking the LA Galaxy. Now, again, the real serious player has their quote unquote super teams, right? Their whatever they call those, right? There's a name for your FIFA extreme team, whatever they call them now, and you're going to have a number of mixtures of players, and you might just happen to call your team the LA Galaxy, and you have Pulisic, and you have like a Messi, you have these quote unquote fantasy teams that you can kind of pick up. But if you're talking about, hey, I go grab my controller, I turn it on, I'm playing Ryan, I'm not picking LA Galaxy. I'm not picking the best MLS team in the league. I'm not going to do that. Now, if you're like in FIFA manager mode, when you like want to control your team,
yeah,
and you want to build a team, and you're like, hey, I want to build the team domestically, and go give it some compete, whatever. Sure, okay, yeah. When you're playing against the computer.
Yeah.
That's completely different than playing against somebody else anywhere else in this world. So I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that even video games, we're not going to pick a domestic team to play because you're going to lose.
Yeah. And I'm doing a little bit of searching here of just some of the FIFA ratings. And Messi, an 88 overall, is the highest MLS rating. And then the second highest is Olivier Giroud of LAFC at 83. So that's the highest rated players in FIFA are 88 and 83 overall. You go over to play as Man City or Barcelona, you have 90 overalls all over the place.
Correct.
And even these players are slow. Messi 79 pace. And when you're playing FIFA, you want fast players, skillful players, because you're not like, obviously if you're playing soccer in real life, you're gonna build out. You're gonna build through the back, build through the midfield, and then get forward. But in FIFA, you're just going to boot it over the top and see if someone can run onto it, or it's 3-4 passes and you're in the final third. You want all the pace. Giroud, 45 pace. Suarez, 64. Like, it's just not, I would say from a gaming standpoint, I'm not a huge gamer, but I would say from a gaming standpoint, that's not fun to play with.
No, it's not. And again, I don't know. Again, if you are a novice in FIFA and don't know much about it, then I don't know if you would be in this conversation. If you are someone who's been playing the game for a period of time, and I can say this because I played FIFA my entire adult life. I mean, FIFA came out when I was in high school on the Sega Genesis. I believe it was
That's
then,
awesome.
and I was playing it with my friends, and that was when it was really, really. I mean, it was, to be fair, it was really cool back then. Not that it wasn't cool, but it was super cool then too. Playing that game, and I remember playing Goal on Nintendo. I think it was called Goal. That was also a very terrible game, but I mean, it was great at the time. But
Yeah.
like, you look back, I go, wow, that was really bad. Like Blades of Glory, or I think it's Blades of Glory or Blades of Steel. Blades of Steel. That was a game on Nintendo I used to play with my friend as well, a hockey game.
Yeah.
Right. And so I remember these games, but I've been playing FIFA like my entire adult life, and I can tell you that I would never in a million years pick an MLS team.
No.
Not a million years. Again, and it has nothing to do with my love for soccer and the MLS, and everything to do with the fact that I want to win.
Yeah.
And so if I'm thinking that way as a gamer or playing the game, then what are we expecting as a nation coming up here in less than 11 months for a World Cup. We don't even have the video game cred.
No.
You know, so
No.
so if the video game cred isn't going to be there, what are our expectations for the World Cup? And again, this has nothing to do with winning the World Cup, because
Yeah.
if anyone thinks the U.S. is going to win the World Cup, I think they need to stop drinking. Like,
I'll
right?
have what they're smoking. I'll have what they're
It's
smoking.
like, if you think that they're going to win the World Cup, yeah, I appreciate your optimism, but there's a difference between optimism and insanity, and I that might borderline insanity, especially where we are right now in our current like situation with the U.S. men's national team, which it is in complete and utter disarray. So, but take that away for a moment. When it comes to the video game, we don't have the ability to even put together a team in that environment that could actually compete and win soccer games on a regular basis. And I struggle with this whole idea that we are in this position in 2025 and we have no hope. At least from my perspective, we have no hope of getting out of the group stage. I feel like there's no hope in that. I feel like we will not get out of the group stage in the World Cup. And I know that I've said this before on this show, and it's the first time talking about it, but I'm curious your opinion about this, because obviously as a longtime soccer fan, you have your favorite team across the pond. Obviously getting out of the group stage is completely dependent upon the draw.
Yeah.
We know that. And so if they get a favorable draw,
Which could happen.
Which could very well happen. Historically, we haven't had tremendously favorable. We've always been kind of stuck in this thing called the group of death, right? Where we're having to scrape out ties and draws to get to the next stage. Obviously our so my question for you is, one, do you think that the U.S. men's national team, regardless of their draw, has a good chance of getting out of the group based on its current situation right now?
I think that's just a hard question because we've never really seen the full group of that Pulisic and McKennie, Musa, all those guys with Pochettino. We've seen it a couple times. I can't remember exactly what camp it was, but we've seen it a couple times. But that's why I understand where people come from of, oh, we needed Pulisic and all those guys to play in the Gold Cup. Because I always thought that was as a, let's get the group in to gel and play in the Gold Cup. I understand it's not a major trophy. It's not you don't win a ton of things. You don't get a ton of street cred, quote unquote. But I would say the goal from my, if I was, judging the U.S., what's going into the World Cup, what's my goal for them? Just get to the round of 16. And that's so sad to say because they're hosting and going back into 2018, like all this hope and hype of Pulisic, McKennie, all these young guys playing overseas, all this hype, and that's what our goal is the round of 16. We just made the round of 16 in the 2022 World Cup, and we played the likes of England, Wales, and Iran. I don't know why I was blanking on Iran, and then we lost 3-1, I believe, to the Netherlands, and we had a shot in that game if Pulisic put away his first opportunity. I believe it was like the first 5 minutes or so, but it seems like with the U.S., ever since I've watched soccer, which was the 2010 World Cup, where they lost to Ghana, I believe, in shootouts or extra time. I can't quite remember. But ever since then, it's always been, let's just get to the round of 16 and see what happens. Like that's the ceiling of our nation. Then if that's our ceiling of our nation, then why are we even talking about winning World Cups or making noise in Copa America? We can't even get out of the group in Copa America. If that's our ceiling, then what's the point of really competing at a high level like that? Are we kind of like hoping that every blue moon we make it to a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and we just continue to rewatch those round of 16 games? Like I believe it was 2006 or 2002 where the U.S. beat Mexico and made it to the quarterfinals. Is that what we're going to hang our hat on in every blue moon is we make it to a quarterfinals? I don't know. I think that going in that we are struggling as a nation and as a team, and I don't have a ton of hope to make it far at all.
You make a great point. But if I look at it, we talk about this all the time, and especially on this show, and I know that you haven't been a part of it, but we've dove into this quite a bit. The next question I have for you is this, and it's a simple question. It's, obviously yes or no. If the United States was not hosting this tournament and they had to qualify, do they qualify?
Oh, I don't even know. That's a great question. I mean, you look back at 2022, they struggled for a little bit in the group or in the qualifying. I was actually at the El Salvador game in Columbus for a World Cup qualifier. Great environment, by the way. Columbus, great environment.
Oh, but you don't like their team. I'm just kidding.
Anything to do with Ohio, I don't like. Which is weird for me to give a compliment to the state of Ohio for a great environment. I think that was the greatest atmosphere I've ever been in sports-wise. But, man, that's a tough question. Would they even qualify? Will they struggle with Mexico? If anyway, like on the road. I don't know. I think they would sneak in somehow. I think they would have to sneak in somehow. I think they have too many. That's the thing that doesn't make sense about me is you have so many guys playing overseas that do well, like Weah, McKennie with Juventus, Pulisic and Musa with, I believe Musa's on AC Milan. Yeah, Pulisic on AC Milan. You have all these great players playing overseas, and then they all get together. Chris Richards for Crystal Palace, another one. They all get together, and then just it doesn't click. Like I don't understand why that is. I don't know because you kind of look at the European teams that they play together. Some of them play together with their club teams. Some of them do play together, like Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, just keeping it with Arsenal and England. They play together. I don't know if that plays a factor or maybe as a nation as a whole, their coaching's got to be better. But for some reason, the U.S. players, they play well independently for their clubs, and then they get together, and it's just bleh. Like it's not as great as you would think.
Well, I've said this before, and I keep saying it. Our biggest challenge in this country is talent identification, and then more importantly, putting those players into an environment will make them successful in an all-star. Let's be honest, an international team is an all-star team,
yes.
Right? That's what it is. We see it every summer. We see the Little League World Series. What is that? Those aren't like little a town from Madison Heights, Michigan's like little league team, whatever. It's a team made up of like 15 all-star kids from this area. Yeah. Right. And so you're taking the best players that are in your area and you're putting them on a team and having them go out and play. And so a lot of them are kind of thrown together pretty quickly in the Little League World Series. Mm-hmm. And the same thing is true in other environments. And so with the U.S. men's national team, you talk about them coming together for a camp. All right, that camp usually consists of a week to 2 weeks in length. And then they go on and play 3 games. They play 3 or 4 games in the course of about 30 days, right? And so, and then what they do? They go back to their teams, and then they don't see them again for 4 more months. That's how that works. And so, asking for players who aren't on the same page, who are coming from varying degrees of challenging environments, some obviously way more than others, and then asking them to be successful in our environment is extremely challenging. I keep saying that if we want to be successful in this country at the U.S. men's national team level, we just need to literally that's their full-time job.
Yeah.
If your goal is to win World Cups, you literally have to say, so-and-so, you're not playing for your MLS team. You're literally playing for the U.S. men's national team. We'll give you a serious contract, and you're playing together all the time. And all you do is you go out and you just scrimmage a bunch of nations, and that's all you're doing constantly is just playing the best teams in the world. You schedule high level and high, challenging environments, and you just always have these players together. And if you were to do that, the communication, the consistency, the continuity, the cohesiveness, all these things that describe great teams would be in place. Because again, if you look at teams that are the most successful, not in soccer, but in sport, football, baseball, these are great teams. They're great teams that do things great together, right? They're all on the same page. And in soccer, it's a unique environment. But if we go across the pond, these players have all been playing together since they were kids. You think about the England national team, right? They were all playing in the academy together. That's countries the size of Michigan. I think it's in totality, right? So it's not a very large country. You can get across it in a couple hours, and they all know each other. So and they all play in the same league together. Our players don't all play in the same league, and they're not playing at the highest level again because the MLS is not the highest level of soccer in the world. right? It's not even close. And if we even said where would it fall? I mean, again, we argued that Champions League, Premier League, like that would be like the quote unquote top league in the world. You can talk about La Liga, you can Bundesliga, MX. I don't think they're considered in the top. I think they're probably somewhere down 5th or 6th. The MLS is probably somewhere down in 10.
Yeah.
I would argue that Saudi Arabian league is probably a better league right now, just based on talent alone. And so, I'm just thinking about talent, not necessarily how they're organized or structured or things like that. But I just asked this question on Twitter. I just started to ask. I go, if U.S. men's national team had to qualify for the FIFA World Cup, would they?
I think they would. I think it would be. I think there'd be a lot more hiccups in the road, but I think they would absolutely qualify. But to your point of having the U.S. team like all around, like it's like an exclusive club and team. I like that idea, but the only thing is we'd have to sacrifice either the MLS as a whole, because you're not getting the best American players to play for the MLS. We'd have to sacrifice that, and that benefits the national team. Or if we want to not benefit the national team and grow more domestically, then we would have to sacrifice the U.S. men's national team and build up the MLS. Like, look, as a nation, we're used to our leagues being the best. We're used to the NBA being the best in basketball, NFL football, MLB or baseball, and then NHL hockey. MLS, that's the one thing that we're not good. That's the one league that we're not the best at. The leagues are in England, Spain, Italy, Germany. Those are the best leagues. We don't supply that. We just don't. And we also, looking at those national teams, I always think of this comparison as well. We look at the USA men's basketball team in the Olympics. Those are 13 Hall of Famers across the board. We have 13 Hall of Famers on our roster. We can put that every single time, as long as they play, as long as people don't opt out. But nonetheless, if those Hall of Famers don't, we have all-stars. We have the next level of all-stars. Then you look at the French national team with Wembanyama and Serbia with Jokic. They have great players. They might be better than some of our American players, but as a team, they're not better than us. They might have 2 or 3 Hall of Famers, but we have 13. Then you look at teams like England, and just saying, I mean, I know there's not a soccer Hall of Fame, but they have Hall of Fame type players, I guess, if you want to put it that way, that all across the board, from their starting 11 to their bench, and even the players that don't even get into their team, don't even get into the national team, are great players. We feel we might have we have a Christian Pulisic who's tearing it up in England. We have 1, 2, maybe 3 of those type of players. We don't have, we can't field a full starting 11 of those players. We just can't. So that's where the U.S. level hurts. And also, to your point, if you're an American soccer player and your goal is to make it into Europe, make it into Champions League, you're not playing with American soccer players from 14, 15, 16, and so forth. You're not playing with American players. You are taking a chance and going overseas, like Pulisic did, playing in Dortmund, like McKennie did, playing in Schalke. I think where we can kind of close that gap a little bit is the dual national players, where they're playing with German players, English players all year round from a young age. That's the only thing, but we can't field 11 players the way other nations can.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways to look at that. I asked this question. We did a poll here on social media a few weeks back. We asked this question: if you're a youth kid in this country, and you're 18 years old and you can sign a contract, and you're offered a contract to go play for Chelsea, or offered a contract to play for LA Galaxy, everything is considered the same. The money's the same. Opportunity is the same. And again, we can argue that would never be the case. But I think for simplicity purposes, without trying to get into the weeds about the type of contract, how long the contract is, all the money, if everything was all created equal, if you're this player that's being offered that, first off, you're being offered it because you're obviously a really good player. So if Christian Pulisic was offered a contract to go play for LA Galaxy and play for Chelsea, all right, and everything was the same, where is he going? Well, we already know where he's going. He already went
Chelsea.
there.
Yeah.
Right? So we already know like, he hit the Dortmund first, but you get the point, right? So that we asked that question. And if you ask every player in the world right now, it's not in the world, I'm sorry, every player in the United States right now who's playing MLS academies, if they're saying they absolutely want to go play in the MLS, absolutely, okay? But if they're offered a contract to go from playing at Columbus Crew or playing for the Arsenal, I would hard press to find a single player in this country that wouldn't go to Arsenal. I have a hard I firmly believe that. And when we asked that question, 80% of the people who answered said that they would go. They would go to their overseas. And so for us, if we're talking about closing the gap, that number has to go from 80 to 40 to 20. Because that means the player realizes that the chance for greatness is better here. That's the reason that they would want to stay here. And again, we're not talking about the downturn. Beckham didn't come here in his prime.
Nope.
Right?
He's also promised something too.
Right? Zoltan didn't come here in his prime. Right? He didn't come here in his prime. Messi's not here in his prime. Now, again, we could argue that if Messi was over across the pond right now playing for a team that he would not score 10 goals in 5 games.
No.
Okay, that would not happen. Okay, and the reason why is because he's playing against way better players. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Again, the fact that Messi is where he's at, he is still 3 steps ahead of our MLS, at least. Over there, maybe a step and a half. Maybe. I mean, I would argue he's probably maybe equal in some cases because, again, there's a lot of other players, who are really, really good. But, again, I just remember when I always have a hard time saying
Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Yeah, Ibrahimovic, right? Ibrahimovic, there you go. I always have a hard time with that name. But anyways, Ibrahimovic comes here, and what's he doing in his first game? He drills a half volley, all right, 40 yards out over the head of a goalkeeper, and then scores another goal, I think, off of a header. He had a brace in his first 2 minutes, first 2 minutes on the field.
Yeah, I think he came on in the second half.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It was 2 minutes. He scored 2 goals. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, and granted, if you're the MLS and from a marketing standpoint, it's awesome, right? But is it? I mean, for the good of the game, is it awesome? Is it good for the development of our players? No.
No, what that generates is the clicks, the social media buzz. That's really all it goes to. And I also, when you brought up Zlatan, I was thinking this right before you said it. Remember that interview he did with ESPN, and I forgot, Herculez Gomez said, oh, there's another player in LA, and Carlos Vela, same age, and, he's tearing up and has this many goals, and Zlatan goes, or he was like 29 or something, Vela was, and Zlatan goes, in 29, what was I doing? Champions League, banging goals in Europe. What's he doing at 29? Playing in the MLS. Like, that's the type of level that we have,
Well, yeah, it's almost like, okay, so it's the best way to put this, the perspective is if you're in high school right now and you're on the JV soccer team or the JV football team, okay, nobody knows who you are.
Nope.
And everyone pays attention to the varsity team. Like that's what the MLS is compared to the rest of the world. That's what it is. And I think if we say it like that, that's exactly what it is. And when you're talking about Zlatan saying that, right? Saying that about a player who's in the MLS, he's like, yeah, you're on the JV team, dude. Like, we're winning state championships over here. You're winning this. Like, they're not the same thing. I mean, who cares what this guy's doing, right? And that's the reality across the world, that nobody looks to the MLS as a place, as a destination. And if they did, they would be there at the beginning of their career. They'd be there in their prime of their career. Now, they all come here on the downturn because they want to be in the United States of America. Okay, not the MLS is just the vehicle that gets them to the United States. They want to be here, right? They see the potentiality. They see, and again, when David Beckham came here, that changed everything for everyone across the pond. He became this thing where, like, oh gosh, like we can come there, we can live here, we can have this LA lifestyle. everyone will love us, blah, blah, blah. I can get my own team, maybe. I mean, he took the American dream to a whole new level from the perspective of an international superstar. And now you're seeing that with the likes of Messi, right? We're seeing that with Zlatan, right? We saw that with these players. And so how does that change? How do we change that narrative? How do we change that trajectory right now in this country where players want to come here in their prime? And I know someone was saying, well, do you think that we're like 30 years away? I don't. The only way we ever catch up, in my opinion, is if like legitimately like the Premier League like shuts down for like 4 years. I don't know if we can ever catch up because they're so far ahead of us. And it has nothing to do with talent. I think we have we have a ton of talent. I don't think there's any question about talent. It's about cultivating talent, identifying talent, and then somehow finding a way for that talent to fit into these systems. And again, over there, you don't have a tremendous amount of college soccer games happening. So, players go from, the clubs to academies into these tiered, Premier League teams, and they work their way up into those systems. They're always involved and intertwined. And it's like, that's how that works. We don't have that here. And so I don't think that we ever catch up. And I'd love to know people's opinion. I'd love to know your opinion on this. Do we catch up? Do we ever catch up to the Premier League? Do we ever? I mean, will we climb the ranks and get maybe top 5 in the world as far as clubs? I mean, as far as leagues, is that possible? I think that's probably more possible. But to say that we would ever get to a point where we are considered an equivalent, and it also, so he says no. Which then, if we start talking about how they were going to have this new USL Division 1, okay? And this is another perfect example of this, too, because I've talked about this on this show. The USL Championship currently is the highest division of professional soccer the USL has to offer, right? Obviously, MLS, and you could argue the Championship's right below it, right? I don't think they consider the Championship, I think they do consider it like Division 2 or like, Tier 2, right? So, and then everything else falls underneath that. Now, USL is championing this new league that will basically be the same level as the MLS, okay? And so, if we were to compare, right now, the MLS is the premier league in this environment, okay? They would be the, quote-unquote, the best league in the United States, and then we'd have this new league, okay? First off, who's going to go play in that league? All right, so we're going to argue that they're going to take championship teams, right? So you can take 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 championship teams and promote them into this league, okay? You can take some USL League One teams, move them into championship, and you'll see this kind of thing, how this goes. That's where the relegation is going to come and play, right? You're going to have USL team, USL 1 to championship, up to this Division 1, whatever they call it, right? That's what's going to have happening. The question I have is what do players want, right? So the players playing in championship right now are the ones that can't hack it in the MLS. They can't. Now they're trying to fight to get there, right? They haven't gotten there yet. And probably, arguably, that you have players who are currently no longer in the MLS that still want to play are now playing in the championship, right? Will that change when this new league is created here in a couple years? Will we see players who say, oh yeah, I want to go play in this new league over here, or do I want to go and fight and be in the MLS?
That's a great question. I genuinely don't know. It's kind of how does this league market it? How much buzz is this generated?
Well, right now the MLS doesn't have a lot of buzz, so I guess we could maybe outbuzz the MLS. You're going to have to, I think, but
money's a big part too.
Money's a big part. But again, I'm thinking about this from the standpoint of the 16-year-old. Okay, you're 16 years old right now in this country, and you're playing for an MLS Academy team. Okay, you're playing for an MLS Academy team, Columbus Crew, Houston, doesn't matter. We're playing for an. Okay, what have you always dreamed of? You've always dreamed of playing the MLS.
Yeah.
Right? That's you want to play professionally. It's the MLS. Now, does it mean that you'll make compromises in order to get there? Absolutely. It means, hey, if one day League One calls, I'm going to go, of course I'm going to accept that contract. I want to play professionally. Yeah. I'm going to go play. Oh, championship? Great. I'm going to go play. Okay. However, the MLS calls, and then you've got, this USL new league calling, and they're offering you a contract. Where are you going?
I would say the MLS, but I guess where the USL can potentially start to rival the MLS in terms of players is they take those MLS Academy players potentially, and you give them contracts. Like, you kind of, I don't know. It's such a, I feel like we just do it so wrong over here. But like, because I know you want to build your teams through the academies. I think that's the proper way to do it. But if you're this new USL team, do you potentially go into the academies, offer these kids contracts, you offer them professional playing time, and you kind of, and this league then just becomes like a young player breeding ground. And obviously, you can mix in older players as well, like team players that have gone out of that are 27, 28, that have gone out of the MLS. You bring them in. But I think that if I'm the USL, that's where I would go. That's where I would start is, I mean, even you could go to academies from around the world. It's just kind of snipe players from the academies and bring them in and guarantee these young players playing time and just be a breeding ground for all these young players. And then the senior clubs can just come in and offer transfer fees, and you go out that way. Like, look at Jude Bellingham when he was at Birmingham City. He was playing in, I think they were Championship or League One over there in England. And then a $30 million transfer fee happened for Bellingham, and he went over to Dortmund. That's the only way that I could see the USL kind of like a player, to your point of your question of what do you decide, MLS or do you decide this USL league? That's where I would say is if you can promise me game time and promise me some publicity, that's where this new USL league would benefit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and obviously there are always going to be the fringe player, right? So if you're a player 15 through 24 on an MLS roster, you're going to want to go probably play in this league.
Yes.
Okay. It gives you a chance now, but then again, when you do well in that league, you're going to go back to the MLS because that's the best league, right? Now, again, to argue that the USL would offer a better overall, like, the USL would offer a better like product and a better league, that would be something we'd have to see in 2 years when they actually officially launch this thing. But I'm talking about from a player perspective, and only from the player perspective, not a fan perspective, not an ownership perspective, not even a league perspective, but the player perspective. Again, up until this time, everything is about getting there. It's about getting to the MLS, getting to the show. The same thing is true in baseball, right? You use the minor league system to get yourself to the show. Yeah. We could argue that every player in minor league baseball could be a major league baseball player. Right? They could be, right? First off, there's not enough spots. So, but the whole reason players go into the minor league baseball system is to see if they can hack it and prove that they can play at that level, right? And to be fair, in its most simplistic way of describing it, you don't have to do a whole lot in minor league baseball to get to the show. You have to be consistent. You have to, and consistency is the most challenging thing in baseball. Mm-hmm. It is the most challenging. Going in every day and hitting 300. It sounds simple. It's the hardest thing to do in baseball, right? Fielding no longer matters. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Let's be honest. It's pitching and hitting. That's it, right? If you can throw a fastball over 90 miles an hour, have good delivery, good location, and you can do it consistently, you're going to make your way to the majors if you can strike people out, okay? Keep them off base. And on the flip side, if you're a batter and hit the ball long and hit the ball in play and have a good hitting batting percentage, slugging percentage, all those things get you to the major league baseball.
Or just get on base in general.
Get on base, yeah, get on base. So those things get you there, okay? And you just use the minor league system to get your way there. But there's not a player on earth that would say, who's in college right now, who wouldn't say, oh yeah, I don't want to go play minor league baseball. No, I'm going to go play. I mean, yes, you want to play AAA, AA, whatever, and get yourself to a point where you could be seen. But that's how that system works. The same thing is true in soccer, right? If you're a college player, you're playing in a USL2 team this summer, okay? Mm-hmm. If we talk about like where is the best place for you to be as a college athlete, soccer player, right now in the summer that's going to give you the most exposure, I keep saying this, USL. Okay, it's the best one, okay? From a non-professional standpoint, it is as close as you can get to a professional environment, and it will more likely give you the exposure because that league has a lot of clout, okay? Yeah. And then naturally, what happens in that? Well, if you're really good, you might get promoted and get an opportunity to get a contract to go play in the USL League One, right? And then go play in the USL Championship. And then, hey, well, eventually there's a chance to go play, in this new league. But the 16-year-old player right now, Ryan, that 16-year-old player who is, again, in the academies right now or playing, on a high-level team, ECNL, whatever it might be, they're like been dreaming of playing on an MLS team their entire life. And so
or overseas.
But again, I the domestic player is thinking about playing here right first.
Yes.
And there's obviously this stream of, like anything else. It's, like bottom of the ninth, 2 runners, bases loaded, 2 outs, 2 strikes, whatever you want to full count, whatever. Like we all have that dream of being in that perfect situation, right? And so I would argue that every player probably has that perfect dream scenario where they would be across the pond. But being realistic, they're all like, hey, I want to play for Houston. It's my hometown team. Go play for Houston, right? So, but that player is now being introduced to this potentiality of a new league. Okay, but again, the MLS is here. This new league will be down here someplace. So first off, if you're currently in the MLS, you're not going to want to go to this league. Okay? If you are a recent college graduate and you're offered an MLS contract and offered a USL contract, you're going to go MLS. I don't think I have. I can even debate on that. I think that's 100% a surety, especially knowing that we don't know what it is yet. Right now, once this thing's up and running, and we all know, but is the money going to be any better? I don't think there's any way the money's better. I don't know if you can sit here and say that an MLS contract is going to be like, USL contract is going to be better money wise, than MLS. I mean, and so yeah, you're going to be promoting these players who are currently playing in championship to go on this new level. You're going to get players who are on their way out of the MLS, on their downturn coming into this league because they still want to play. So that's what you're going to get. And you're going to get fringe players. Players who currently could make an MLS team but not in the top 11 and who are in that roster 16 spot right through. Because again, let's be honest. For any game in the MLS, you're dressing 18 players. Okay? You get 6 subs. I think it's 6 subs. I think is what you get.
Yeah.
6 subs. So you're dressing 17 players. Okay, so but you have a roster size of 25 to 30 players. You have a 2 team, which all these teams now have an MLS Next Pro team, which is like their 2. So you'll have Houston Dynamo 2, LA Galaxy 2. I think LA Galaxy might have like 4 teams now, to be fair, but. So those players are feeding into the first team. So if you're on that first roster of the 25, you're in that 25 roster, you are currently sitting. If you're not in the top 16 on that roster, you'll go someplace where you can be the number 1, number 2. Because again, let's be honest. If you're talking about taking a player who's 17 on the depth chart in an MLS side, they're going to be number 1 on USL Division 1 team. They're going to be like maybe or 2. It's like 2 or 3 on their depth chart. Right? And so, that's how that would look. And tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's how this whole thing would look from my perspective, is that you take these players who are, and then what would happen? The players who are currently on Team 2 would make their way into Team 1, and they would do the same thing. You'd still have your top 17 players, and then 18 through 25 would be a mix of the 2 and 3 players who could make it and into that first team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's great conversation to think about. I mean, the easiest solution to all of this would be just have a promotion relegation into the MLS. But we all know that's not gonna happen. But it's just gonna be tough for players to not take that MLS contract. That's so difficult to your whole life. You whether you're playing college or you're playing for USL 2 in your summer months, that's so difficult to say no to. Like, you have the USL, the new league contract in front of you, and the MLS contract in front of you. That's so hard to say no to the MLS, even if the money's the same. Because think about it as well. You, from that player perspective, you may also think in your head, "Wow, I could go up against Lionel Messi one day. I could have to defend him, or play against him, or score a goal against, or if you're Inter Miami, you might be his teammate or something like that." So that's another thing that I don't think we've touched on yet of the appeal to the MLS is playing alongside some of those players. Mueller now over in Vancouver. But I think it's so tough to say no to the MLS if you're a player. But again, I think we're just doing this wrong as a nation in a whole. Just create a 4-tier promotion relegation. I mean 4-tier as the main leagues, and show a pathway to the MLS. I know this will never happen, and it's just a whole money game and a numbers game. But if these USL league, right, has a pathway somehow to the MLS, that appeal to this USL league is so much more appealing because, oh, they're going to promise me more game time in these USL than the MLS, but there's a pathway for me to get to the MLS through promotion and relegation. You might want to take that contract, but that's not the case. But right now, you're taking that MLS contract, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, players want to play. And this is why in the summer you'll see players who will play for 6 different teams, and again, it's good and it's bad, right? It's good because they get obviously a lot of playing time. The bad thing is they get the wear and tear, and so they don't play as long as they would like. Because we've determined over the years that that while playing is so important, the recovery is more important, right? And recovering your body so that you can be at your top shape and top form. And I've actually had this conversation with Granthik Chatterjee, who's the Union FC Macomb head coach. And
I've had a couple of conversations with him.
And Granthik is someone who said, like, "Hey, John," he's like, "I am in good enough shape to play soccer every day," but he's like, if I can't go out there and work my tail off for 90 minutes and play a 90-minute game, I don't want to play. Right? So for me, I'd rather work my ass off every day so that once a month or once a week I could play a 90-minute game. I'd be fine with it. And so recovery is so important. But it's also a great point when it comes to understand, because again, players want to play. So if you know that you're going to be sitting on a bench, and this is something my coach asked me when I was in high school, and I would say this is the same thing, and it would still ring true to today. The ultra competitive player who knows what's at stake, who understands what it's going to take to get to the next level, is going to be offered this opportunity, right? All right, so Ryan, I'm the coach, okay? Hey, Ryan, you can play on the second team. You can be a starter on second team, right? You get a ton of minutes and play on the second team. Or you come join us on the first team. You'll be like 24th on our roster. You might play a game here or there, but you'll be with the first team. What would you like to do?
I would take the second team because I just want to play.
You want to play?
Yeah, I just want to play.
Okay. Now, being one of them is an MLS team, one is the second division. So I want to make sure I reframe this so that we're on the same page. Okay. It's the same thing as that if you think about this from the standpoint of notoriety, the same standpoint of publicity, contracts, the whole 9 yards. I understand you want to play, but being a competitor, okay, you're being offered a contract to be on the first team, but your playing time is limited. You're being offered a contract to be on the second team. Your playing time is not limited. You'll be playing a ton. Okay. No different than in high school when your coach comes up to you and says, "Hey, Ryan, you'll start on JV, but you'll be on varsity."
Yeah.
What would you like to do?
I always thought the playing time on JV was more for varsity, and then just sitting on the bench on varsity. But if I'm guaranteed game time, like a step below the MLS, I would take the playing time. If it was the same thing of you get playing time in the second division compared to the MLS, money's the same. If it's all the same,
well, you're never going to be. That's never going to be a thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I would take
think
the playing time for sure.
And that's probably indicative now of. Well, I'm not saying indicative, but me. You asked me that same question, which you should ask me that same question. So ask me.
What would you like to choose?
I would play on that first team.
Would you?
Absolutely. I'll be in front of those coaches every single day. They see my work ethic. They see my work rate. They know what I'm doing. They see it firsthand, okay? Because here's the thing. I turn that spot down. Yes, I'm going to go, great. I'm going to go score a whole bunch of goals on the second field, right? Okay?
Yeah.
But I'm playing against lesser than. I'm not playing against the best players on the team. They're up on the first team. So I'm playing on that first team with the best players. I'm training with them. I'm getting better because they are better than me, quote unquote, right? So I'm getting the best. I'm seeing the best, and I'm around that team. I'm a part of that team. And so when the coach is thinking about moving someone into a role on the first team, who's he thinking of? Well, the player who's right there right now. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to pull a player from the second team, but they have players on their team right now they're giving a contract to.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't that player get the first crack at it?
It's a great point.
So again, while we can talk all day long about playing time, and playing time is extremely important, but again, I think if you were to ask Messi the same thing when he was 16 years old, 17 years old, he would probably say the same thing. I want to go play on the first team.
Yeah.
I want to be in that environment. Again, from the standpoint of notoriety, from the standpoint of opportunity, and the way people look at it, it's no different than when Zlatan Ibrahimovic said this about the MLS. Oh, he played in the MLS, right?
Yeah.
It's been looked down upon.
Mm-hmm.
There is not an MLS, again, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the MLS players are like, well, that you're on the second team. But you're telling me that you walk into training camp, and at the end of training camp, you're offered a 53-man roster spot, and there are 4 players that go to practice squad. You're telling me that the practice squad player who's offered it and not offered a roster spot, they're grateful as hell they were offered that spot. But you don't think that the players who on that 53-man roster look at those practice squad players differently?
That's a good point. I didn't even think of it that way.
I mean, you got to, right? I mean, you're telling me right now that MLS players, again, think of it like this: the U.S. Open Cup, right? U.S. Open Cup and the MLS teams, they look down upon any team that is considered a quote unquote amateur or not in their realm. They don't want to play them.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. You can get those U.S. Open Cup games, or you could have a plague of injuries, and I didn't even think of that. You're persuading me over here. I would say I'm going to change my answer now. I would say back to the first team. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you persuaded me. I will take now the roster spot, because I didn't even think of you're going to have the top end training, you're going to have the top end scouting, you're going to have top end coaching compared to the other league. So you're going to pick up on things. You can just learn. So then later on down your career, you can pick up on, the things. Even if you go back to a lower division, you can pick up on the little things. And I guess it's kind of like being an intern. You don't quite get what you want yet. You don't get the playing time. You don't get to travel to the cool stadiums, go to all the high level games. You're going to get stuck with the grunt work, the work that no one really wants to do, playing in those U.S. Open Cup games. But you're still training. You're still getting the exposure. You're still getting everything that you wanted, but you're just not. Everything's being laid down foundationally, but you're just not getting to the end of it. So yeah, I would say you persuaded me to your answer.
I am in sales for a reason. But that wraps up here episode number 126 here on this Wednesday morning. Appreciate Ryan stopping by, man, and being a part of this. Nathan Wenger will be back here tomorrow at the same time, same place here on Inside the Game. Don't forget, subscribe, like us, and share this with your friends and family. And again, we'll be back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.